You want to know what the best iPhone of 2022 was? The iPhone 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max. Yes, not the 14. The 14 series, by and large, I feel like was a giant cash grab where they basically changed the colors around a little bit. They gave us the 48 megapixel camera, which still bends down to 12, and we have Dynamic Island now, which, okay, first generation, it's gotten a little bit better since it's come out. I really thought it was heavily gimmicky when I first got it, but I will say it has gotten a little bit better, and that's kind of the truth when it comes to most Apple features. Usually there's a lot of band-aid ripping off in the beginning where people get their, they get their feelings hurt, they get butt hurt, they don't really like stuff that goes along with it, and then everyone's like, oh my gosh, it's the greatest feature ever. So I won't call Dynamic Island the greatest feature ever, but it is better. I think it is better than the notch in some ways. The only thing I don't like about it is how intrusive it is in the screen, because at least whenever you have the regular notch up here, it blends in better, and especially when you're playing games, all the games are kind of optimized to wrap around that. It just ignores that space where you have Face ID. But yeah, that's probably the biggest criticism that I have for it. But lots of things that just didn't go good with the 14 series. One, the 14, I mean, it's perfectly fine, except for it's got last year's processor in it. And if you want to go, okay, well, it has the processor from the 13 Pro, that's fine, but they took the 13 Pro and Pro Max off the menu, and they're giving you the 13 Pro and Pro Max the processor in the 14 and the 14 Plus. We need to have a philosophical discussion here because they're very powerful. I mean, even with the Snapdragon 8 Generation 1, I think they're not even as powerful as that we had last year. Yeah, it was a very good chip, but they're giving us last year's hardware and they're charging the same prices. Like, they should have brought the price down maybe another $100. The whole lineup configuration when it comes to the iPhone is really kind of weird and diluted now because they've got the 12 up there, they've got the 13 up there, but not the Pro. They've got the 14 up there. I think they've even got, they might have the 11, but I know they've got the SE. So there's so many different models now, and Apple, of course, does charge a pretty penny. And they don't give you very good trade-in values either. I was looking at some of the trade-in values. I thought maybe I'll go ahead and buy the 14 Plus just so I can make a video about it. But I don't really feel like I need to have the phone in hand to say I think it's a ripoff. It does have a bigger screen, but it has the older screen design. It's not Quad HD Plus. It's 1080p. It doesn't have the 120 hertz ProMotion display. It doesn't have the third camera. It doesn't have. There's a lot of stuff it doesn't have, and it's just really asinine to me that Apple is still selling a $900 phone because it's $899, costs a couple extra dollars if you buy the unlocked model, and it still doesn't have 120 hertz. I mean, shoot, I just made a video that I recorded yesterday about the Realme 10 Pro Plus. It starts off at $269, and it has a beautiful AMOLED display that has, well, 120 hertz refresh rate. Basically, anything in the Android world from a $100 phone to a $1,000 phone is running circles in so many ways around the iPhone screens, other than the ProRes models, which you get, which ProRes is nice. I can't go back to 60 hertz on an iPhone. I definitely like the ProRes. I think it's good. And that's what we got here with the iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max. I still have my 13 Pro from last year. The only reason I got the 14 is because I'm a content creator. I make tech reviews, and, well, I got the new one so I could evaluate it and tell people it was any good. Also, iOS 16 was trash for like the first 2 months. It had so many problems. It was super janky. Mine still freezes up. It got better. At least a lot of the apps aren't freezing up, but my user interface will just randomly become non-responsive, and I'll try swiping, it doesn't work. I try tapping, it doesn't work. I have to turn the screen off and turn it back on, and that'll usually free it back up and it'll start working again. But yeah, it's still not the greatest, and the battery life has not been good. And a part of that is attributed to the always-on display, which, to me at this point in the game, I don't really consider always-on display like a new feature. That should be standard. That's something we've had on Android for so many years, and for so long they're like, oh, it's eventually coming to the iPhone, But yeah, when they first implemented it, basically it burned up a lot of battery because it's effectively just leaving the screen on all the time. Which, I mean, is okay. I like the way that it actually does it, but it does burn up a lot of battery. Now, they've subsequently fixed that to where you can turn it off, or you can have it where it just shows text and it doesn't show the image. So they've fine-tuned it and tweaked a little bit better, but iOS 16 really killed the battery life, even on the iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max. And the iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max battery life were revolutionary. Yes, they were basically double what I was getting with the best of the Android flagships. For instance, this last year when the S21 came out, S22 came out, I was getting about 4.5, 5 hours of screen on time. When it came to my S21 Ultra, S22 Ultra, Interstage Right, my iPhone 13 Pro, I was getting 10, I got up to 13 hours of screen on time before on that sucker, which is uncanny, especially with the amount of power and sophistication and all the great stuff you have. Now, that doesn't mean you can't kill them faster. I remember when I got my iPhone 13 Pro, the weekend I got it, I went out to LA and I went to Disneyland. I was shooting photos and video clips all day, and I basically killed it in 4 hours. So that doesn't mean that you can't ramp it up and you can't kill it quickly when you're doing photo shoot stuff. But I'd taken, I think, like 200 or 300 photos and a bunch of video clips. But I just haven't been impressed this year with the iPhone 14 Pro and Pro Max. I guess this year it's 2023 now. So last year wasn't overly impressed. I was glad they kept the price down in the US, but outside the US, the price actually went up some. And in addition to that, in the US, it's eSIM only, which caused me a lot of headache. I had to go to the AT&T store several times. One, because I got the iPhone 14 Pro Max, and then also got one for my daughter and my son, and then theirs had problems too. So we had to go to the store, sit there, get them to set it up. Giant pain in the rear end. So there's just nothing that really was overly positive about the iPhone 14 Pro and Pro series. The 14 Plus is just a giant ripoff in my opinion, even though it does get good battery life. But I would say, and it's annoying because you can't buy the 13 Pro Max. You would be so much better off buying the 13 Pro or the Pro Max, but Apple took those off the menu to force you to buy the new one. So you're basically spending what you would have normally spent last year because they dropped the price $100 the next year. So that means that the iPhone 13 Pro should be $899 and the 13 Pro Max should have been $999. So they gave those the kibosh, and now they charge you $899 for a Plus model that has a lesser quality screen, no ProRes, it doesn't have the better camera on it, it doesn't have the extra set of camera on there, and they charge you that much money. So yeah, if you held on to your 13 Pro or Pro Max, you are the winner of the iPhone game for 2022 and going into 2023. Basically, I don't really see any significant reason to upgrade to the 14 series phones. You're better off with the 13 because the 13s have better battery and the chip from that year seems to optimize it better. So I think that Apple kind of lost their way this year and really haven't been impressed with what they put out for the phone stuff. It looks the same. It's not like they went back to the drawing board, they changed things up. They came out with Dynamic Island, like, whoo, Dynamic Island, 48 megapixel camera, and screw you with eSIM. That's basically what they did. So, but that's one great thing about the iPhones. They're good for so long. I know folks that are still out there using like iPhone 7s and 8s. I mean, the 8 is still supported. I think the 7 might be. I know the 6S is not anymore. But they support their phones for a really, really, really long time. And they run well for a long time. So if you happen to have a 13 Pro, you could very easily hang on to that sucker and wait till the 15 or probably even the 16. And I think Apple realizes that they might be creating a problem for themselves because their phones are supported for so long. There's not really a reason to go out and buy one year over year. And they certainly don't give you good trade-in value. So I bought the iPhone 13 Pro last year. I paid like $1,300 because I got the 512 model. They wanted to give me $600 or $650 trade-in value. Basically half. And they don't give you extra money for the storage, which is really frustrating because they screw you over. They charge you so much for extra storage. So 128, they charge you $9.99. If you want the 256, you go to $10.99. And then to go to 512, I think that it jumped up to like $12.99. It's a lot of money. And then, but when they trade it in, they don't do that though. They don't give you extra money if you've got a 512, if you got a 1 terabyte, you got a 256. So basically, they're just taking advantage of you. They know you want to get the new phone, and then they just kick you in the rear end and like, here's your couple $100. So you buy with your new phone. Good luck getting it to activate with your eSIM, and we ripped you off. So anyway, that's pretty much my synopsis of the experience with the iPhone 14 series phones. I wish they would have kept the Mini. I think the Plus they should not have done, and they should have just kept the 13 Pro and Pro Max in the lineup. Better phones, would have dropped the price, basically effectively around the same thing, and you get a really good quality phone with the same chip. It has the same chip, for Pete's sake. You only get the new chip in the 14 Pro and Pro Max. You get last year's Pro chip in the 14 and the 14 Plus. So that's all I got. And to wrap this one up, I know I probably offended some Apple fans out there, but I mean, I'm not here to cater to fans. I'm here to tell you what I think Apple is doing, here to tell you what I think is the better device, how I think it was a big rip-off marketing scheme this year for the 14s, and hopefully they'll do something revolutionary with the 15 other than just give us a new chip, which, maybe you might get the new chip, or if you get the 15, are you going to get last year's chip again? Which, again, they're totally good chips. They're super powerful. They're great. They're fantastic chipsets. They do a good job, but they should drop the price if they're going to rip you off and sell you last year's hardware and treat it like it's a new phone. So that's all I got. If you have any questions or comments, then please go down to the comment section. I will get back with you. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like and the subscribe button and the little notification bell if you want updates when new videos come out. And as always, thanks for being here. I appreciate you watching. And I'll see you guys next time.